Good day everyone, and thank you for being here this very special morning. I am Filippo Franchini, Vice President of the Italian A.I.S.E.A Association and father of Lorenzo, a boy of 20 affected by A.I.S.E.A in one of its more severe forms. I am a regular attendee of this event, thus I look familiar at least to some of you. Just a few moments ago we have seen the pictures of some of the A.I.S.E.A champions, as we parents like to say, who passed away since A.I.S.E.A was first described. Not all the families which suffered such loss agreed to share the story. Those photos are then just a fraction of a much longer list. The balloons you watched virtually flying away in the beautiful Edimburgo sky represent the boys and girls who passed away. A stunning number of souls. Each person who worked to organize this memorial had sometimes very hard times, contacting parents who lost their sons and daughters, sharing their tales of grief and sorrow, and very often crying with them. Let's thank them all from the bottom of our hearts. I was asked to talk at the beginning of this closing day. It was not easy for me to decide, both for personal reasons and because I felt it was a great responsibility. In the end, I overcame my doubts and fears, and I'm now going to take you on a quick travel through time. Our journey begins way back in 1970. I'm just a child of 8 and have no idea that the A.I.S.E.A even exists, much less of becoming a father. On April 11 that year, the Apollo 13 mission to the Moon is launched from Kennedy Space Center. 2 days into the mission, an oxygen tank in the service module explodes, causing massive internal damage and putting the lives of the 3 astronauts on board in jeopardy. The mission control team has to devise a strategy to return Apollo 13 to Earth safely under tight time constraints, because the oxygen and other supplies on board can keep the crew alive for just a few days. The joint efforts of the terrestrial staff and the crew end in a safe return to Earth on April 17. An awesome adventure that a child of 8 will definitely never forget. Just 12 months later, Verrett and Steele, 2 Canadian neuropsychiatrists, published the first description of A.I.S.E.A. After a number of documentaries and books, the epic odyssey of the Apollo 13 is brought once again to worldwide attention 25 years later, with the release of this movie, which, besides winning 2 Academy Awards, owes its fame also to a couple of iconic taglines. Houston, we had a problem here, and failure is not an option. At about 40, I became the happy and proud father of Lorenzo, a beautiful boy born on August 12. He looks healthy and everything works as usual until the night of December 24, when instead of greeting relatives and unpacking Christmas presents, we have to hurry Lorenzo to ICU for the first of a number of times, to revive him after a cardiorespiratory arrest. At just 4.5 months he manages to survive and we return home after 20 days. All's well that ends well? Maybe not, because towards the end of January 2002 we parents are told that Lorenzo is affected by A.I.S.E.A. The diagnosis is merely clinical and we aren't told much more, except that it's a rare disease with no known cause and no known therapy. Well, it seems we'll have to discover everything along the way. On January 18, the ATP1A3 mutation is identified as causing A.I.S.E.A in 8 patients. This finding is confirmed by subsequent genetic screenings worldwide and finally published on July 29. In August, Lorenzo turns 11. He is a beautiful boy, able to stand and walk by himself without support, since the age of 9. Attending a public school aided by a specialized teacher and a dedicated caregiver. He loves animals. When out of school, he likes to stroll or wander with me by car while listening to music. Stand By Me is one of his favorites. At home, he enjoys watching Walt Disney cartoon movies and loves being read books. He cannot read or write, but he is really keen at building jigsaw puzzles, up to 200 pieces, and he is very proud of this. Everything, of course, in between hospital and ICU admissions, dystonic hemiplegic episodes, epileptic seizures and heavy doses of medication, which are more or less effective but allow him and us to live a decent life. Not easy at all. But the news of the ATP1A3 mutation are a blaze of sun in the darkness. In December, I have the privilege of being selected as the official voice of Patients Association during the first ATP1A3 symposium in Brussels. Now that the genetic cause has at least been identified, I decided to talk about how patient organizations can support the research of a cure for A.I.S.E.A. And I close my talk showing the slide. On that very night at the formal dinner, I sit with Dominic Poncelet, father to Patrick, also severely affected by A.I.S.E.A, president of the French A.I.S.E.A Association, a dear friend of mine, and other patient representatives. When we raise our glasses for a toast, Dominic says, "We are working for the next generations." We talk a while about this. He's aware that discovering the ATP1A3 mutation had just been the first step of a long, hard and uncertain path towards finding a cure, of which our own sons and daughters will hardly see the conclusion. In the end, we all agree with him. Lorenzo keeps growing and struggling with A.I.S.E.A each single day of his life, as a number of other children and adults worldwide. I keep touring the world, attending symposia, conferences, family meetings, and showing up at whatever event can bring hope for a cure to end A.I.S.E.A, or at least to minimize its brutal effects. I am also actively involved with the Italian A.I.S.E.A Association and other international advocacy groups. While the research on ATP1A3 related diseases slowly progresses, we decided it's time to try and give a rough idea of what living with A.I.S.E.A really means. But in which way? Documentary maybe? Thanks to the formidable effort of the Icelandic A.I.S.E.A Association and supported by other international associations, the documentary Human Time Bombs premieres during the first symposium in Washington, D.C., promoting deep commotion and a standing ovation at the end. This event marks a fundamental step in raising awareness on A.I.S.E.A and its impact on daily life, but no option for a cure is still in sight. In mid-March, after a sudden bout of epileptic seizures, Lorenzo is admitted in ICU. He finally comes home towards the end of November, after almost 8 months in hospital, and having lost his ability to walk and stand. This time I have to skip the Tokyo Symposium to stay with him and his mother. A few days after his 18th birthday, Lorenzo is once again admitted in ICU. This time we make it quicker and come home a few days before Christmas. He is still happy to be with us, but more of his abilities have vanished. On December 18, Lorenzo is ready for sleep, but suddenly another severe bout of epileptic seizure strikes, and he has to be admitted into ICU. Emergency intubation is necessary, thus a rescuer tears off his shirt and hands it to me. This time Lorenzo is not able to recover, and after 40 terrible days in ICU, he finally passes away on January 29. Dominic Poncelet's son Patrick also passes away at 35, towards the end of August. So here we are. I believe everything happens for a reason, and I want to share with you some of the lessons I've learned. First, no feat is impossible, even if all odds are against it. Just as a crew of astronauts was brought back to the Earth in a damaged craft, just as Lorenzo was able to gain a lot of skills and abilities in spite of his daily struggle against A.I.S.E.A, finding a cure for ATP1A3 related diseases is a goal we can reach. We owe this to him and all the champions who passed away. Second, time and commitment are critical factors. Apollo 13 rescue mission was successful because of hard and dedicated teamwork, focused on the essential accomplishments and disregarding anything unnecessary. This is exactly what we have to do in order to reach our goal. If we want families to lose no more sons and daughters, we have to avoid duplication of work, minimize delays, and focus on fundamental activities. Last and most important, we need not to forget that behind every mutation, genotype, phenotype, clinical examination, EEG, rehabilitation drill, behind all this are the bodies and souls of persons who suffer and struggle each day with their parents and caretakers against a devastating disease, but all are also able to live their lives to the fullest and greet you with a smile. Thank you for coming. Stand by us. We need each other.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see, no, I won't be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid, just as long as you stand by me.